Hello, this is Chuck at Lazarus Recovery Podcast, and I want to welcome you to episode number 1. This is what we're going to do. I'm going to talk about what we're about and how we're going to do it, and then we're going to get into the meat of the thing in episode number 2. But for your explanation, I am Chuck. I am the host, and as they do in AA in California, I will qualify. My sobriety date is mid-November of 1974, and I stayed sober in AA for 6.5 years, and off and on since then. But I got, for the faith people, I got saved, born in the Holy Ghost in about year 2.5, that would be 76. And I got baptized in the Holy Ghost. I chased a girl into a charismatic prayer meeting, and I got saved and baptized in the Holy Ghost about 2 years. That would be 1976. And I stayed in the AA for 6 full years, from 74 to 74 to 80, and I stayed sober in a church for the past 40 years. I've been off and on gone to AA, and I know AA people, and I know recovery people, but basically I've been in the church for the last 40 years, and I haven't had a drink. It's been a hard time sometimes. I've weathered divorce, I've weathered single parenthood, I've weathered a whole bunch of things. I've weathered disappointment. I weathered a lot of things, and those things are, really they've made me who I am. They made me who I am. And I found out that I know AA works because I got sober. And I know faith works because I stayed sober. And what I want to do in my retirement, now I'm 75, what I do in my retirement is, this is my hobby, one of my hobbies. I want to do a podcast. Technically I'm challenged, but I am soldiering through on it, and I want you to come along with me. I want to talk about faith, and I want to talk about recovery, and I want to talk about how they intersect, and I want to talk about things that you want me to talk about. I want to talk about prayer, and I want to talk about recovery. I want to talk about addiction, and I want to talk about recovering from emotional, psychological stuff, because I'm serving in a teaching position in Celebrate Recovery, and I've seemed to have inherited the non-specific mixed issues, and those are generally psychological, emotional issues, anxiety disorder, sometimes reasonably heavy psychological issues that require medication. So I have people asking me, what does recovery look like for me? What does recovery look like for me? What does recovery look like? How do I recover? How do I get a life second to none with a diagnosis, where I have to live on medication for the rest of my life? How do I deal with that? How do I get a life second to none? Can I have a life second to none? Can I be like AA and say, if you stay sober and clean, you're going to have a life second to none, and they're saying, is that true for me? And I want to answer, I want to help. I've had a little experience with them, and I've got my own, I think I've depression, anxiety disorder, I'm also, I think, a little bit on the spectrum. I'm a few screws are loose, and I've found that there are some medications that I use for blood pressure that actually help that, and so I can speak to that whole thing. And I want you to come along. I want you to come along with us. If you're strictly a faith person, I want you to come along. I want you to share your experience, strength, and hope and faith. You can share Jesus. That's what I'm here for, is to let people talk about Jesus. But in order to qualify to talk about Jesus, you gotta listen to the AA people talk about their faith as they understand it, which I know is like a red flag to a bull to faith people. No, you don't understand. There's only one way to do it. It's a Jesus thing, and that's it. That's fine. You can say all that, you can believe it, and stuff like that, but it doesn't help communicating with people. You can be dogged, just like Christian people are dogged. I've been around. I've been around a lot, and I have to tell you that AA people can be the most religious people that you've ever seen. I mean, in a good sense and a bad sense. They pound the big book just the way Christian people pound the Bible. So I want to bring perspective to both sides. I'm 47 years sober, and I'm 75 years old, and I've been there, done that, got the T-shirt, and I want you to listen to my experience, strength, and hope, but I also want you to listen to my faith. I know it's intolerable to you, but if you want to listen, I'm not going to be nasty about it, but I'm going to share it, but I'm going to have people to explain, and I'll explain to the church people why AA says, God as you understand it, because that's like a red flag to them. They go completely nuts. So I want you to listen to me explain to you why they do what they do, and I want you to listen to AA people talk about addiction and survival from trauma and stuff. And I want AA people to look to church people because they know about trauma and they did deal with trauma. And I want you to learn about trauma. I want you to learn about, what it is. I want to carry information to you that you probably won't get in AA. Maybe you will, but I want you to hear all the things that are there for you to know. There's a whole bunch of stuff that I don't think that AA secular recovery people know about. I mean, they don't know about boundaries. Maybe they don't know about trauma. They don't know about. They know about codependency from Alanon and stuff like that. But I want to go over that stuff. I want to talk about that. I want to bring people in to talk about trauma and recovery and codependency and all the stuff, because I can't, for you recovery people, you got all this stuff and you just don't have names for it, some of you. And you've never heard of boundaries. You never heard of codependency unless you've been to Alanon. You don't have names for it. You don't know about bondage. You don't know about bondage breakers. You don't know about all the things and traps you can fall into that have a great deal to do with how your recovery is. You've been fighting things and you don't have names for them. And that's just too bad. That's too bad. So I want to, forgive me, it's not arrogant, but I want to educate you about things you don't know. But in the same sense, I want you to educate church people. If they listen, I want you to educate church people, because they're ignorant. They're massively ignorant about a lot of things. And, they don't want to tell you the truth, but, they're knowing some stuff about denial, because stuff happens in churches and they just don't talk about it, and then people don't feel free to talk about it, and they're broken by the stuff. In AA, at least you talk about it and you got a chance to get over it. In a church, they don't have a chance to get over it. A lot of times the pastors just put the hammer down on stuff like that, and I want church people to be able to listen and, go in a corner and hide and listen to the podcast and learn some stuff that they don't know. They listen to people that have the statistics about how many people get hurt in church. And how do they recover from those hurts if they don't acknowledge them and try to figure a way to recover from them? How do they do that? How are they going to find a way to do that? And that's what I want this podcast to do, is to, educate. Now, I might get hung from a whole bunch of lampposts from both sides, because a lot of times information is not the friend of the church, and it's not the friend of recovery either. Recovery people don't want to know about Jesus, and church people don't want to know about recovery. I got news for you. I'm going to talk about both at the same time, and I'm not going to apologize, because it's important information to have. For recovery people, denial ain't a river in Egypt. You can't pretend that Jesus doesn't exist, because he does, and he has a lot to say about what's happening with you. And he's a resource that you're not tapping into, and you're a fool not to. And recovery people, you need to know about Jesus. But Jesus, church people, you got to know what's going on, because you're in complete denial about what's happening in the church. You just don't know what's happening in the church. You do. You do know. Because if I say the word, somebody that's gone through it. The wife or the husband that's getting beat on. The kids that are getting molested. All that stuff. The pastors that are doing stuff. All that stuff. You're in complete denial, but it's true. And what happens is you have a whole herd of people that need recovery. That just recover from the bitterness and the anger and all that stuff that happens. The church needs to take a good fourth and fifth step. That's the way it works. If pastors are listening to this, they're probably listening after a while because they've heard about it and they want to sink me like a rock. But, I'm a pastor's son. What's going on. Exactly what's going on. What's going on in your church. That's why you bring CR into it, because it's safe. It's nice Jesus stuff, and it's safe. You can get away with CR. But you need secular recovery to come in, at least have a say at the table, because a lot of times they have more information about what's going on than your church people do. You need them to come in and help you with your kids. And how many people in church, you church people, how many people in church are living and dying over the fact that they don't want to get the phone call that their kid is dead from an overdose? How many families in the church are hiding the fact that their kid has got an addiction problem? How many people in the church are hiding the fact that, the pregnancy wasn't exactly what they're saying it was? How many people there are just hiding because they just don't want to lose their position in the church. They don't want to lose that. I get that completely, absolutely. But pastors, you need help. That's why you bring CR in or something like that, so it's safe, so people don't carp on you and give you a hard time. But you need to listen to people that I know, and I'm going to bring them in. And I'm going to let them talk. They might not be great faith people, but they've been sober a boatload of time, and they know. I want to bring in people who have stories, raw, fresh stories about addiction, and I want you to listen to it. What I'm trying to do is get church people listening and recovery people listening. You don't have to talk to each other. You don't have to rub elbows with each other. You don't have to do anything. All you have to do is listen to each other talk in the safety of your own home. And then maybe what you're going to do is you're going to realize that, you need to come face to face. You need to come face to face. If you're a Pentecostal church, maybe you need to get a AA meeting or an NA meeting in your church. Maybe the CR people need to go to an AA meeting and an NA meeting and listen to them instead of trying to, missionize them. There's nothing, trust me, I'm going to have a guy on. I can talk him into it, and he was complaining about CR people coming in and leaving literature at an AA meeting, and it's disrespectful, completely disrespectful. And the point is, the Christian people, I don't have a clue that it's disrespectful. They don't care. The arrogance of it is amazing. The ignorance and arrogance. So I want you to come on. Pastors, I want you to listen. I want you to listen. You're not going to like me, probably. I'm a pastor's kid. Been there, done that, got the T-shirt. I know. I've been there, done that. I've been in Pentecost for 40 years. I was a pastor's kid. I was raised in a Methodist church, in a congregational church. I've been every place, done everything. And like a friend of mine said before he passed away was, at a certain age, you don't really care what people think. And I think I'm there. I don't really care what you think, but I care what you know. And I want you to know stuff. And I'm going to give you the information. You don't have to believe it. You don't have to, but listen. Just listen. And if you think I'm an idiot, just leave a message, leave something. There's a website, I have a blog. You can leave messages, we'll figure it all out. Or if you know anybody that can help me figure it all out, let me know. But this is Lazarus Recovery Podcast, and this is episode 1, basically telling you what I'm going to do before. I'm giving you fair warning. My kids know me. I am not the most politically adept. I do have a tendency to speak my mind, and I have much too much of an appetite for being insulting. I try not to, but it breaks through every once in a while. So, I'll be a guy you can hate, but listen, and both groups, recovery and faith, have something to gain by listening to the other. And that's what I'm going to do. I'm going to talk about both sides because I've been there, done that, got the T-shirt for that. So, this is episode 1, hopefully the end, and hopefully I can get this, on the right place and do the right thing. So this is episode 1 of Lazarus Recovery Podcast, and this is Chuck, and I am the host, and I am the one that's at fault. So, like they say in AA, don't drink, go to a meeting. This is Chuck. Have a good day.